Zirkzee and Mainoo both want out of Manchester United and potentially in January, which is two things I do not want to see happen. But when you're not in Europe, when you're not in the Carabao Cup, where are the minutes going to come? There is reports coming out that Bruno's agreed to leave. Bruno will leave Manchester United. 100 million Saudi deal. We're looking at Baleba. We're looking at Elliot Anderson to replace Bruno with. I've put reports at the end because I would take that with a pinch of salt. International break, people like to spread a few stories for clicks. But we'll talk about that because I do think Bruno will probably leave at the end of the season. But I think the source is just guessing. We're going to talk about more games coming up for United, potentially 10 million being made with Manchester United potentially going to play some games over in Saudi. Maguire to take a wage cut to stay. Some links and talk about Amorim's future and how the dressing room feel about Amorim. And also links to Semenyo. If we have time, we will cover that. So, hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to your 10-minute Manchester United news, transfer news, update and roundup show. If you're new to the channel, every evening I try and do a 10-minute video where I just give you all the news in 10 minutes, pretty much rounded up. So let's start with the Zirkzee and Mainoo stories because this come out from credible outlets. And then we will get into the Bruno talk, which I'm going to say take it with a pinch of salt. You know me, I cover every story, but I tell you if I think there's much in it or not. And I don't think there's much in the Bruno story, so we will cover the more reliable stories first. Chris Wheeler is a decent Manchester United source of information, and he said that Joshua Zirkzee is looking for an exit route in January. He's deeply frustrated at his situation, and a move in the January transfer window is seen as absolutely crucial. He wants to play in the World Cup. Manchester United have a big problem right now because every player wants minutes because they want to play in the World Cup, and this is the one season where we can't offer minutes because we've only got one game a week. We went out to Grimsby, so it's not even like we can offer Carabao Cup minutes, and we're not in Europa League. Right now, we would have played 6-7 more games already this season had we been in the Europa League and Carabao Cup. Not 6, 2, 3, 4. We played four more games this season already. Had we been in those competitions, 4 or 5 more games. So it's frustrating because players like Zirkzee aren't going to start in the Premier League because that's Sesko, but he would have started in the Europa League and he would have started in the Carabao Cup. Zirkzee can't even get 20 minutes off the bench because Sesko is the striker. We've got a million number 10s. But Zirkzee is a good player, and Zirkzee, for me, the 2 months before he got injured, was one of our best players and one of the most likeable players and really promising. And he's got injured, and it's going to take him a run of games to get back to scratch. But the problem with Zirkzee and the problem with Mainoo is Amorim can't give them the minutes because Amorim's not rotating because we're barely playing any games. We play 1 game a week, so he's not rotating. But players like Zirkzee and Mainoo, who would get money who would get games if we rotated in Europa League in the EFL Cup, are now going, well, if I'm not going to get games, I want to go because I want to play in the World Cup. So we've got this big problem of not having European football the same season the World Cup is coming up. And I saw this and I agree. Another reason why Amorim's celebrating having no European football being better for the squad is laughable. I think we couldn't have done Champions League because I think we needed a full strength 11 in Champions League games. But Europa, and obviously we wouldn't have got Europa League even if we won the Europa League. But Europa League would have been nice because then we can rotate and play more games. Zirkzee, he said, was the only player I actually enjoyed watching towards the end of last season. We'll lose massively talented players because of not being in Europe / out of League Cup. And look, Zirkzee actually was pretty enjoyable before he got injured. But I agree in the sense of actually not having European football gives us 1 game a week and it gives us more time in training, and not being in the Champions League necessarily isn't a bad thing because we wouldn't have gone far in the Champions League. But because we're out of European football and we've got a World Cup coming up, Mainoo might look at leaving, Zirkzee might look at leaving, and if Mainoo and Zirkzee go, we have no squad depth. Right now we have good squad depth for a team that's playing 1 game a week. Mainoo, Zirkzee, Mount, all on the bench, or you can put Mount on and have Cunha on the bench. Yeah. That's good squad depth, but we're not playing them because we've got 1 game a week, which is the annoying thing. But if we do finish 6th or 7th this season and we get back into Europa League and Zirkzee and Mainoo have been sold, where's that squad depth? So you might be thinking, Alice, why do you keep talking about Mainoo? Well, this is because of a report that's come out from Sully today. Kobbie Mainoo is unhappy about his current situation at United regarding lack of game time, and he feels he's not being appreciated. If the situation doesn't improve, we'll ask for a loan this January, wants to play in World Cup 2026. First of all, whenever I talk about Mainoo and I say I think Mainoo should get more minutes, so many people who are Manchester United fans comment going, Alice, Mainoo's crap, Mainoo's rubbish, Mainoo's too slow, Mainoo's too this, Mainoo's too that. I don't understand why me saying something nice about Mainoo triggers such a negative reaction from some Man United fans. I don't get it. I think Mainoo's a good player. I think Mainoo's better than Agate, and I think the minutes Agate got should have been given to Mainoo because Agate's played more minutes than Mainoo. And I always get crap because I praise Mainoo, and I think that Mainoo should play more minutes. And there's a lot of Man United fans that don't rate Mainoo or think he's rubbish and want to sell him, and I just cannot get my head around that. Zirkzee's a difficult one. There's loads of 10s, and Sesko's the number one striker, and it's difficult for Zirkzee to get minutes because there's not a lot of games. And I like Zirkzee, and I'm disappointed we haven't seen much from this season because I liked him at the back end of last season. Mainoo's one where we're playing Bruno out of position. Casemiro's legs have gone, but he's probably our best midfielder right now. And Agate's Agate. The midfield has been a problem every single game we've played. Mainoo comes on as man of the match versus Man City, and he still can't get 10 minutes. Like, Mainoo is fighting with Bruno for that deeper role, and Bruno doesn't even play that deeper role very well. And then when there's an opportunity for Mainoo, it's Agate that normally comes on first. I get why Mainoo's unhappy. With Zirkzee, it's difficult to give him minutes because of Sesko, because of the 10s. But with Mainoo, I just think when the midfield is that bad, and we have so many issues with build-up and progression in the centre of the park that Mainoo fixes, I just don't get it. I get why he maybe goes to Casemiro and Bruno as his number one midfield. But then why bring Agate on when you've got Mainoo? I don't get it. Certain games you might want Agate, yes, but do you know what I mean? Zirkzee and Mainoo both unhappy and could consider leaving in January if the situation doesn't improve. Quality players, real shame that is happening, partly due to lack of European football and cup competitions, which could have given them more game time. And that's the shame in it. The shame in it is we haven't got enough games to give them minutes. And I just think they're two talented players. Like, I would be gutted if we lost both Zirkzee and Mainoo. I think they're two very technically good players, two talented players, and two players we need for depth. Because injuries will happen. There'll be a few more games in January, and injuries will happen. And I'm more worried about Zirkzee than Mainoo. I think Mainoo's too good to not play himself into the team. But unless Sesko picks up an injury, I just don't see the minutes for Zirkzee. So, Indy Kala is claiming that Bruno's sale is agreed. Carlos Baleba and Elliot Anderson incoming. I doubt that. And that he's been told in high secret United's transfer plans, and that Bruno will be sold to Saudi Arabia for 100 million in the summer. The deal was already agreed between all parties according to several sources, and it seems like Bruno is just waiting to sort out personal terms. I think Bruno could very much go to Saudi in the summer, and I think Manchester United are very much open to selling Bruno and bringing in Carlos Baleba and Elliot Anderson. I don't think anything's been agreed. Indy Kala got the Baleba story right, and since then they've said a lot of stuff which, that Amorim was going to change formation next game, and he didn't. A lot of people are talking about it, a lot of people quote tweeting it. Indy Kala has got some bits right, they've got some bits wrong. I think that Bruno will probably go to Saudi, and I think we will be looking at Baleba and Elliot Anderson, but I don't think anything's been agreed like they've said. I don't think 100 million's been agreed. I don't think Bruno's going to agree to leave 2 months into this current season. He's a captain. It would take his head away from Man United. I don't think anything's been agreed. I just think Ineos have a plan to maybe sell Bruno and spend that money on his replacements, but I don't think anything's been agreed. Now, talking of more game time for players, it was said by the Mail that United could bank more than 10 million if they strike a deal to visit Saudi Arabia this season, according to industry sources. Now, if you're not aware, Manchester United have been looking at having some mid-season games in Saudi Arabia, which would add 2 more games to the calendar because we've only got 1 game a week, being out of competitions early, and we want to fill gaps and maybe have more games. And you know what? I'm open to that. If a player gets injured, not open to that, but I'm open to actually having 2 games in Saudi, even though it makes the Glazers and Ineos money, because I think we need the games, because I think actually really there's a lack of match sharpness still, because I think there's it's good to have less games, but we've got a lot less games that actually maybe it's good to have a couple games to, Zirkzee can build up fitness in, Mainoo can build up fitness in. Other stories going about involve that Maguire wants to stay at United, but to do so he'd have to take a wage cut, as United are not going to offer him the current 190k week salary he earns. But Maguire wants to stay. Now, Maguire's contract is up at the end of the season. Manchester United are not going to offer him a new contract. And if United do offer him a new contract, he will have to take a big wage cut. So it'll be interesting to see if Maguire takes a wage cut and stays at United beyond 2026. Rob Dawson said that United hierarchy are convinced the squad are behind head coach Ruben Amorim after conversations with the players. According to Rob Dawson, they believe the players very much back Amorim, and the dressing room hasn't turned on Amorim, which is good. And Alex Crook did mention that United are continuing to monitor Anton Semenyo after holding talks with him this summer. Bournemouth believe now he's worth 75 million. Semenyo has been mint. Semenyo, Wharton, Baleba is my perfect three signings in the summer transfer window. If United could do that, I'd be absolutely gassed. But Semenyo has been so good, his price that's going to go up. The competition for him is going to be crazy. But there was reports from Duncan Castles, I believe, that United had actually agreed a deal for Semenyo early in the summer. But then he didn't like the wages we'd offered him compared to other players. I don't know how true that is, but Semenyo could be one to watch. Semenyo could be one to watch, but I think Arsenal, Liverpool, every top club will be in for Semenyo next summer. But sure, United are on there as well. Anyway, thank you for watching. Bye.